Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Live Fearlessly video podcast series. I have Amelia here with us today. Thank you for joining us, Amelia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
thank you so much for taking the time to share more about your story with us. And guys, I have to tell you, this is actually the first time I get to really engage and meet with Amelia. Of course, I've stalked her on a little bit of social media, saw all the great things that she's doing. We met in a group with podcasters, I believe it was, and got a great connection there. So I'm going to give Amelia a little introduction so you get a little background on where we're going to start the conversation from here, but I'm super excited to dive in. So Amelia is a mom of 6 daughters and 4 sons. She's a psychotherapist and founder of Mom Connections, where she coaches women raised by emotionally unavailable mothers. She empowers women to break the cycle, heal their hearts, and reclaim their lives. As a mom, she too had to learn to overcome these wounds caused by her own mother. Through her personal journey, she was able to forgive her mom and change the way she mothered her own children. She supports moms to raise strong, confident daughters and to leave a lasting legacy of love for their children and generations to come. I mean, who doesn't want that goodness in the world?
Right.
I love it. I love it. I actually do have a daughter. I will just start by saying that my daughter is 7, and then I do have 2 boys as well. They're currently 5 and 4. So it pulled on me really good to know that your mission is all around raising strong women. And I love that. So Amelia, where are you located?
I'm located in Southern California.
Awesome. Yeah. So I love the fact that we are virtual and that we can connect from all over. I mean, I was doing that before, but right before we got on, we were talking about, the possibilities in what we're able to do with connections. And I love that your company is called Mom Connections. I'm very much a human connection person. So it was another thing that caught my eye right away, with your brand and your values and all of the amazing things that you have been contributing into the world and filling up the women in your circles and all of that great stuff. So again, I'm just super excited to dive in and learn more about you personally, Amelia. So again, just thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So before we dive in about fear and your story around that, what's some interesting facts maybe that you want to share? What's something that you'd like the viewers and I to know about you?
Oh my, let's see. Quirky little dog named Scarlet. She's
Oh,
funny and curly doodle. Let's see, I have one son, my oldest son, but he's the 6th child. He's out to sea, so he's been on a ship for over 170 days, very stir
wow.
crazy. He
Yeah.
attends a U.S. Academy, and so that's part of his training. You have to do 2 sea years, and so
Okay.
he's supposed to come home November 6th, so we're so looking forward to
Oh, that's my
so
first son's birthday, November 6th. Yay.
November 6th. I have one going into law
Amazing.
enforcement. I have daughters who serve the kids with autism spectrum. So we're very, as far as our children, a lot of them are very service oriented, whether it's to the community, to our nation, to people, to high risk people. So we love to do that.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. I love that. So excuse me. So that's amazing. And so what are their age ranges for your children?
To 50. So I had the first 5 and 4 years. uh, 5 little girls in 4 years.
Wow.
And then I had a 3-year break. I had the next 5, which were the 2 boys and a girl in the middle, and then 2 boys in 7 years. So
Yeah.
30
Oh
to
yeah.
15 years old.
Okay. Awesome. Amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's dive in. So when you hear, when was a significant time in your life when fear held you back from living your life fully? What comes to mind for you? Is it something with motherhood, or is it something different? Like, go wherever it takes you. Let us know where is a time in your life when fear held you back?
Okay, so my twins were in kindergarten, and my little identical girl twins, and they were hanging out with a little girl. And the little girl got sick. And they were trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And it took a long time, but they discovered that she had leukemia. Mm. And intellectually, I thought, oh my gosh, that is so, so sad. But I could feel it. It scared me that here I am, a young woman with all these kids, and I couldn't feel it. And so I just started to question that. And I realized that I had to make a decision. Because when you are raised in an environment where there's fear, there's a lot of self-protection. And I was so self-protected that I was good at intellectualizing and analyzing, but not feeling. And the thought of like putting down the shields and all the artillery and armor to feel was terrifying on one end, but I knew the cost was that I couldn't feel and cry and laugh on the other end. So it was kind of that intersection that it really affected every area of my life, but I knew significantly it would affect me as a mother, as a wife, as a mother, as a friend. And that was before I was a therapist. So, it was just really important to make that there and decide with it.
Wow. So, so your girls were in kindergarten when that was going on. So, which order of children was this? So how many kids did you have before, during this time? How many did you have? The five, the first five?
It would have been the five. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's like you're already in the motherhood. You're already thick in it, right? You already have 5 kids. And now like you're realizing that that is something that you really need to pay attention to, and that you want to dive deeper into figuring all of that out. So like, where were you mentally during that, right? Like when you realized that that was something that was missing for you and that you were questioning what that meant and what to move forward with that, like how did you feel about yourself mentally? And where was your thought process mentally during that?
Well, it reminded me of a book. When I went to college and I was 19 years old, the teacher said, hey, everybody pick a book from the box. And there was a cardboard box on the floor, and I reached in, and there was this book that the title just haunted me. It scared me. And it was called, Why Are You Afraid to Tell Me Who You Are? Why are you afraid to tell me who you are? And I read that book, and he interviewed a bunch of people. Why are you afraid to tell me who you are? And the best response he got was, because if I tell you who I am and you don't like who I am, that's all I have. And I remembered reading that book, and it started to stir it up when I was 19. But now I was so good at doing, as a child, my mom, if I was sitting down relaxing for a few seconds, say, what do you think? You're a millionaire? Or do you think you're a decoration? And so immediately that meant get up and start doing. And so I became very aware that I was a doer. I was very reliable. She called me her little secretary. My parents were in Costa Rica. And so, English was very much their second language, And so I very much helped her with forms and reading and writing letters, all those things as a kid. So I learned to be very efficient, sufficient, to help, to serve, and do. But I was becoming more and more aware that I was hiding behind the doing and not really feeling and being.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And that is something that I'm sure many of the viewers can relate to, is like, even the question, right? Are you more of a doer or someone that you can be, right? Slowing down is something that like humanity is really alluded to, I feel like, right? Like we're just in this go stage and not really feeling through things. As I said, I am a human connection person, so I love this conversation and the realizations of people actually taking time to become aware and think about, can I be more, instead of just going through the motions of what we think we're supposed to be doing and what we're being told to be doing. And I think that's really powerful distinction. So I love that was like a thought process that you were going through, and realizing that was part of your childhood, and how you became a doer and an action taker, and how that pulled through in your story. So like when you were realizing that and then like breaking free from the shackle of like having to do all the things and start feeling more, like what did the relationships look like for you? I know in your bio it says, you know, you forgave your mom and you moved through those things, but if you want to touch on that relationship, or, you know, any relationships that you can think of because of the human connection piece, how did your friendships and relationships shift with you during, you know, the transitional piece of really starting to feel through things more than just going through the motions?
Yeah, I think, you know, the relationship always starts with yourself first.
Yeah.
And I was very aware of the shoulds in my head and the need to project a person that was all polished and put together, and trying and fighting not being that person. So I remember one time we were going to go to a family function, and I had just had my twins as newborns. I have these 4 little 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and a set of twins. And we're supposed to go to this family function. And I was fighting about ironing my skirt, like perfectly iron it or just kind of good enough.
Yeah.
And I thought oh my gosh, my mom's going to be there. She's going to say something. And I purposely thought, I am not ironing the damn thing, you know? So I knock at the doorbell. And she opens the door and she looks me up and down and she says, "What happened?"
Oh no.
Because I was the child that represented the way you're supposed to, you know, iron your clothes and put things together.
Were you the firstborn?
No,
you were the oldest?
I had that role. I had the firstborn role.
Okay.
So it's just little things like that. It's an inner, you know, conflict, and, you know, and just disclosing just a little something negative about myself or real about myself so that I could start to connect. Because if I'm too polished and put together and hold it all back, all my, you know, imperfections, I can't get close to anyone. So when I was starting to go through this process, I had been going through therapy. And so my husband and I would go for a walk, and I would just the things that I was working on. And then as my kids got older, I started to share with them where I came from and my personal struggle. And I really wanted to do it differently. So I was sharing the story is fear and struggle to bring other people into it and connect with it. So I didn't feel so alone, because I always felt alone, and show the other parts of me that needed to be represented, the real parts of me.
Yeah, to start to really piece together a whole Amelia and not just a one-sided one thing that everyone saw. I love that you're talking about, you know, how the different pieces in the people in your lives that you started to share them with, you know, separately too. The fact that you were connecting with your husband individually, going for walks and having the communication. And then, you know, I think that's a really important distinction and realization for people, that we do need to be communicating these things and sharing, especially with the people that are in our world directly, and that are affected by, you know, if we feel good about ourselves, when we feel good about ourselves, when we feel confident to show up fully as who we are, and having that confidence to know that it's okay to laugh and cry and be frustrated and work through, like, we're human, we're supposed to have our emotions and work through them. And that is how we connect. So that's a huge thing that I loved hearing from you, is that, you know, we can't connect with people if we're fake or putting on a persona that is fully saying, like, I'm better than this, when maybe today you're not. Maybe today you get to be held in grace, and that's totally fine. So that's really awesome. I'm like, that's exactly the truth and what more people need to hear. So I'm really excited for everyone that's tuning in. Like, let us know what you're taking away from this conversation. I'm always sharing what I'm taking away from this, but I want to hear from you guys. We want to know, you know, what's resonating with you, or what's an aha moment. Would be super cool to hear in the comments. But so Amelia, when you were really in that shift and kind of, I like to say, like, jumping ship from the fear and being aware, once you're more aware of it, like, was there anything really defining other than, was the defining moment of, like, moving away from that, was that with the girl that was diagnosed and you just starting to kind of take more awareness in the situations in your own life? Or was there something more that was just like, okay, this is totally where it needs to make a shift, and I'm going to start actively working on it, and the therapy and all of the things that we've already mentioned? Was there anything defining that really helped you jump ship from the fear piece of it?
I realized I had always thought that being a mom was going to be my biggest in life. This fear that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't nurturing enough, that I wasn't loving enough, that I couldn't be enough. But I realized in those moments that my biggest fear was not confronting my biggest fear. And that what if becoming a mom, what if moving towards being more loving and nurturing taught me how to be more loving, taught me how to be more nurturing, taught me how to be less perfectionistic and more playful? What if? And that possibility intrigued me more and more and more than the fear.
I love that. I love that you just said that it intrigued you more, because it's not what's better, what's worse, or anything like that. Like, but knowing ourselves too, and stepping into like the curiosity spaces to question it, and to know, like, when we're questioning it, that's the intrigue that you're talking about that can get us to make a move. And even if it's a small movement, to just start having some momentum is super important. So, like, what advice would you give the viewers around, a fear space? Because we have fear every single day. And I actually view fear as like my best friend. I love fear. It excites me, and it's fun because it's really challenging us to make a move and take an action. So Amelia, what advice would you give the viewers about, fear and moving through them, or tools that really helped you along the way that you would like to share with us?
I think I tell my clients that therapy or coaching or whatever the work is it's kind of more 360. It's bringing to yourself. And when we were little kids, we, as newborns, right, we're toothless, we have gums, and we're drooling, and we vomit, and we have crazy little hairdos, and we love people to play with us. We love to be the center of attention. You have this amazing confidence. You just are who you are. If you got to throw up, you throw up.
Yeah.
And yet in life we start to hide our true self. So coming home to ourselves, where we're integrated, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, requires that safe place. And so you have to have, going back to connection, is those safe people. Even if it's just one person that says, I am here to witness you, your best you. And so we don't want to do those with, critical people or people that don't believe in us or the naysayers, but with just surrounding ourselves with safe people and beginning to identify who is that and what characteristics and traits do they have. So, because when we're tense, our body tenses up. And so we want to be, we could tell the people where we kind of like, kind of tense up. People where we can open up and start to relax and be ourselves. So I would really say the biggest thing is finding that safe person, a mentor. I remember reaching out to a woman, and I just loved her friendship, because she was past the days of raising your children and all those things. And so I would go to her house and we would just cook together. And she was just a very sweet, safe person. So whoever that person is for you, start there. And then listen to the voices in your head that are keeping you stuck. I remember getting my girls dressed and their hair done and thinking, I'm doing it too. They have to look just so. They have to be, because they're representing me, and letting that go, that, if they want to wear goofy matching or whatever they want to do, it's let them be them.
Yeah.
So it's this internal tug of war and being okay with it, with all parts of ourselves, and just being very gracious. Because I think when transformation, There's got to be truth, accountability of some kind, truth. But you
Yeah.
can't be truth to us because then it's so harsh. Someone who's really harsh. And there's that tenderness, that grace. Well, you can't have total tenderness and grace, or there's no accountability. You're fine.
Right.
So truth and grace over time in a really cool tribe brings about transition.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That is definitely something that I have always been working on, because I'm a very honest person. I'm very forward and direct, and to learn the skill of not over like honesty and being the tender piece that you're talking about, right? Like truth, yes, but not harsh, brutal truth. It's that mix of the grace and the tenderness. That's personally something that I have always worked on, because I necessarily would hear it, but I could feel like after I would say, I'd be like, I don't know if I was tactful enough of like how I said it. So in general too, and as women, I think that's something too that we naturally are like, oh, we want to be super like laid back and caring as a nurturer naturally, but we also have to have that line and the boundaries around certain things too, and showing up in an honest way and being who we are, right? Like me being honest and really bold about what I think. Most of the time it's because my face does its own thing with how I'm reacting. So my expressions speak very loudly for me.
Okay.
So that's always been a gift of mine.
I bet.
But no, I love that. Something I wrote down is when you're talking about like the tribe and like finding that person, it's really about the loving embrace, which I think definitely ties back into the mother piece of that, and like having the mom connections and people that can understand but also give you advice and all of that. So this is a great opportunity for me to ask, where is the best place for any moms or women, or where's the best place for the viewers to connect with you personally, Amelia?
Facebook page, which is Mom Connections. But if they
And
wanted to
that's
be
one
part
word.
of the group, yeah, it's all one word. Yeah. So Mom Connections. And then I have my group, my private group, which is Mom Connections Remothering Tribe. And going back again to like one of your questions, was another thing that I had read a ton of books on mothering, on growing, a ton of books. But
Yeah.
I knew I was avoiding the one thing that would be the biggest key, and that was connection. You can read all the books that you want, but if you don't have the real connection, it's still intellectual. It's not moving down into the heart and taking action. So that's why groups are so important. So yeah, so it's the Mom Connections Remothering Tribe, and that's my private group where women can come, and I just do lives and talk about boundaries and attachment and just whatever's going on in the world or moms, and just helping them grow, and connect to themselves. That was the other reason I called it Mom Connections, because I wanted them to connect to themselves first and learn that in the context of connecting to others. So
yes. Oh, I love that. That's so I do confidence mindset coaching, and that's the first piece, is we connect to ourselves, and then we connect to the people that are impacted by us, right? And then connecting to our vision and who we're always becoming. So that's absolutely true. I love that. Definitely make sure that you guys are getting connected in the group. Check out the Mom Connections. I'm going to make sure that I'm in there. I'm pretty sure I am, but I'm going to make sure that I am now. And so I'm very much like a visionary. I love to think about the future and keep going for more, because I very much believe that if we're not setting our sights on the next things, that we are stagnant and we find ways to actually be emotionally disconnected from what we truly want. And so, Amelia, I love asking the question, like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, especially in this unprecedented time that we're in, where we're like, we don't know which way is up half the time right now. How can I answer the question? So I'm realizing that it's more of like, instead of the goals, right? Like, your values are always going to pull through. So what are the things that you want that you don't have right now in the next 5 years that you see for yourself? What do you think of?
I think of a team. I have a family team, a big
Yeah.
family drive in this home, and my siblings, and there's so many,
All of the places you have
Costa Ricans, we have a lot of babies everywhere. But I would love to train mothers to multiply myself with those women's personalities and us to grow. Because I just feel like, mothers are the most important, impactful, and influential women in our children's lives. And women are leaders. And sometimes we just think we're just moms. No, we are leaders in our home. And I think that if we, there's so many in the world, but if we love well at home, we teach our children well at home, we have wonderful families out there. So many women weren't mothered well. So many children weren't mothered well, and if we can do a better job and focus our attention and our energy on these little human beings that, because love absolutely does matter, and they matter. I would love to see that happen.
Yes, I love that. There's some statistics and some quotes or whatever, but I always talk about the fact that, what you're saying is true, because women, when we learn something, we bring it back into our home. Like when we go to conferences, when we go for personal development and growth, when we're reading those books, even if we aren't highly intentional about it, we start implementing them and modeling that for our children, for our significant other, and showing people that these things are valuable to us and that they mean something. And we start to teach and show them with whatever we are learning. Absolutely. Women, there's statistics, I have no idea what they are, but there are statistics that show that women definitely do that more than a male figure does.
Yeah, I remember my daughter saying to me when I went back to school and did all my work, she said, you changed how I viewed what women can do, because I come from a very traditional Costa Rican background,
Yeah.
And a lot of women stay home, we have families. And so by her just watching, me, it's like, oh, wow, there's a lot more to me than looking down at all the relatives and the cousins, that I could do something different.
Yeah. That's so true. It really just, it opens the possibilities for someone to see what is possible. So that's great. So that was my last question, actually, and we already did say where to connect with you, so this was great. Is there anything that you want to leave the viewers with as a last message from you? That would be great.
Oh my, I would just say to you, I always get tearful when I do this. Ladies, you absolutely matter. Wherever you are in your life, whatever story you have, thank you for the work that you do and pouring into the lives of your children. I know that women just work so hard, and now more than ever, it's like, 2020 meets 1950s, are doing so many things, and they're exhausted and they're tired, and I get it. But please take care of yourself. Please connect to other women, because our work absolutely matters. We affect so many little children, and we need to do the best we can. So treat yourself the best you can so that you can give the best you can. And let's do this together, because we are absolutely in this together as mothers. It's a motherhood. We belong to the motherhood.
Yes, you are in the hood, ladies. I love it, and that's so true. And I'm always thinking about empowerment over competition, right? Like so many times, the traditional background stuff is like, this mom is so much better than me in comparison, and it's not about comparing. It's not about who can do things better or worse or any of that. It's really about how we can collaborate and do it together, like what you just said. Literally, we are better together. And when I think about my neighbor and I with virtual learning, and it wasn't working, so now we're switching. We've decided we're switching to homeschooling, straight homeschooling. Did you homeschool your kids at all, Amelia?
I did for a few. I had my kids in school, and then my oldest one requested it. She says, when I go to middle school, will you homeschool me? And it totally makes sense now because she has a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. And so she was starting to get very stimulated by environment. And so then we did that. And so I was homeschooling them. And then she got, then she became, she had the bipolar kind of came out. And it got to be that I was spending so much time taking her places to get taken care of that I decided, I asked the kids, do you guys want to go back to school? She was just very complicated. And so then they went back to school. So we tried it for a little time. I had a college student who came and she helped. And it was good for the time, but it also was at that time to go back so they could get the attention that they needed so I could give her the attention she needed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think that's a good point of like flexibility and being able to adapt for what's best for your family, your kids, and really so that you can be present and fill your cup, but theirs as well, along the way, and figuring that, flexibility out with that. That's really true.
We do that best when we take into consideration what you said, and that is that we're all so different, and that there is no ideal motherhood, and that we should be doing it this way, that way, or the other way, or that's the ideal moms. Right. The more in tune we are, the more connected we are to ourselves. We become the expert of our families. We're not looking to everybody else, right? We trust ourselves and we trust that we know our children. And I knew that my older daughter was struggling and that the other kids were struggling, that I wasn't as available to them. So, you just, as a mom, you take in all those pieces and you just trust and you move. But you move better when you're connected to yourself and you trust yourself and you just admire yourself.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it that you emphasized on the word move. That's my word for the year. 2020, my word was always just move and keep moving. So Amelia, I'm curious, have you ever picked a word for your year to like stay your focus? Have you ever done that?
I have. Yeah. This year I had adventure was one of them. Collaboration was another one. I think abundance. Yeah. I had 5, but I can't remember right now.
I love it. Well, I always love when I hear like my word of the year and I'm like, yes, this is such a great connection, and it totally pulls through. And again, I love this conversation because all about connection, all about supporting other women in, all of the things that we are doing, because we wear so many hats, and really figuring out what's best for you guys, but also knowing that there are spaces, there are communities to support you, and you are not alone in the struggles of, is this better? Is this better? Can I do this? Like, we can do whatever we want. We can find the resources, have the support, and do what's best for us first and our family, right? So connect with Amelia, connect with me. Let us know how we can support you guys, and answer any questions that you might have, or suggestions, or just your biggest takeaways. Like, let us know. We would love to hear from you. Yes, absolutely. And Amelia, thank you so much for coming on today. I want to just say thank you for your time and your knowledge and your life experience that you shared with us, and some really great advice and directions. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate the opportunity for sharing your audience.
Thank you. Everyone that's watching, love yourself, live fearlessly, and make it a great day.